The grand hall of the Stellar Empire's High Council gleamed with cold, metallic perfection. Commander Gray stood straight and tall, his battle-scarred armor a stark contrast to the pristine surroundings. His 4 eyes, each a different shade of purple, scanned the faces of the 12 council members seated in their floating chairs above him. "You don't understand," he said, his voice carrying the weight of someone who had seen too much. "These humans, they're different from any species we've encountered in our 1,000 years of conquest." High Council Leader Reed let out a sound that might have been a laugh, if laughter could be made of ice. "Commander Gray, your reputation as our finest warrior is the only reason we're even listening to these concerns." The leader's pale skin shimmered under the bright lights. "You speak of danger from a species that hasn't even colonized their own moon." Gray activated his personal display unit. Above the polished floor, a hologram flickered to life, showing scenes from Earth. "Look at their entertainment, their movies as they call them. For centuries, they've been imagining and preparing for our arrival." The council members watched as scenes from various human war simulations played out. Gray had carefully selected these from his months of secret observation. "They call it science fiction, but it's more than that. It's preparation. They've thought of every possible way we might attack them, every strategy we might use." "Primitive fantasies," Council Member White scoffed, her long fingers waving dismissively through the hologram. "They imagined ships that would fall apart in real space." "That's not the point," Gray insisted, switching to another recording. "Watch how they think. In every scenario, even when facing overwhelming odds, they find a way to win. Their minds work differently from ours. Where we see established protocols, they see 1,000 possibilities. Where we follow time-tested strategies, they improvise." The hologram showed humans in various situations, fighting, building, solving problems. In just the last 100 years, they went from primitive flying machines to landing on their moon. Their rate of advancement is unlike anything we've seen. Council Member Black leaned forward, his ridge-lined forehead creasing with interest. "You've spent too much time watching them, Commander. These humans have infected your mind with their chaos." Gray shut off the hologram and took a step forward. "During my observation mission, I witnessed a small human settlement deal with a natural disaster, what they call a flood. Their response wasn't organized like ours would be. It was chaotic, with individuals making decisions on the spot, adapting to each new problem as it arose. They succeeded not despite their chaos, but because of it." "Enough." High Council Leader Reed's voice echoed through the chamber. "You forget yourself, Commander. We are the Stellar Empire. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. Our technology is millions of years ahead of these humans. Our warriors are bred for combat. Our ships are invincible." Gray's shoulders slumped slightly, but his voice remained firm. "That's exactly what makes them dangerous. We've grown complacent. We follow the same strategies that have worked for millennia. But humans are creatures of endless innovation. They don't accept limitations. They don't follow rules they didn't make." The council members began talking among themselves, their voices a low hum of dismissal. Gray knew that look. He'd seen it too many times before. The same arrogance that had built their empire would now be its undoing. "Your warning is noted, Commander Gray," Reed said finally. "You are dismissed. The invasion of Earth will proceed as planned. Report to your ship for assignment." Gray bowed stiffly and turned to leave. As the massive doors slid open before him, he paused. Without turning back, he spoke one last time. "When the humans do something unexpected, and they will, remember that I tried to warn you." The doors closed behind him with a final heavy thud. In the empty corridor, Gray closed all 4 of his eyes and took a deep breath. They weren't ready for what was coming. No one was. The humans were about to teach the galaxy a lesson about underestimating a species that had spent its entire history learning to overcome the impossible. The massive view screen on the International Space Station showed something that humanity had both dreamed of and feared for centuries. Alien ships entering Earth's orbit, They were beautiful in a terrifying way, their silver hulls reflecting sunlight like liquid metal. Commander Smith stood in the United Defense Force headquarters, watching multiple screens showing the same scene from different angles. Unlike the panic that science fiction had often predicted, the room was eerily calm. Years of drills and preparation were finally paying off. "Sir," Lieutenant Ross called out, her fingers flying over her keyboard, "we're receiving reports from every major military on Earth. They're all following the first contact protocol." Smith nodded. The protocol had seemed silly when it was first created 5 years ago, but now it was proving its worth. Within hours of the alien ship's appearance, traditional military rivalries were being set aside. Former enemies were sharing information, coordinating responses, and forming a unified front. High above Earth, Commander Gray watched from his flagship's bridge as the small fleet of Empire ships moved into position. His warnings to the Council had fallen on deaf ears, and now he could only watch as events unfolded. "The humans are responding faster than expected," his second-in-command, Officer Blue, reported. "They've already established a global communication network. Their military forces are coordinating worldwide." Gray's 4 eyes narrowed. Of course they are. They'd been practicing this scenario in their entertainment for generations. The Empire's initial show of force was meant to be simple: position their most impressive ships above Earth's major cities, demonstrate their superior technology, and wait for the inevitable surrender. It was a strategy that had worked on countless worlds. But humans didn't follow the script. Instead of panic, they showed organization. Instead of chaos, they displayed unity. And most surprisingly, they attempted communication. "Commander Smith of Earth's United Defense Force." The transmission came through clear and calm. "We welcome peaceful contact with your civilization. We request a dialogue to establish diplomatic relations." The High Council's representative, watching from the fleet's command ship, scoffed at the response. "They dare to speak to us as equals. Show them their place. Target their orbital station, the one they're so proud of. A small demonstration will remind them of their insignificance." Gray's hands gripped his command chair. "Wait," he started to say, but it was too late. A beam of energy lanced out from one of the Empire's ships, striking the International Space Station. The Council representative expected it to vaporize instantly, showing humans the futility of resistance. Instead, something unexpected happened. The beam hit what appeared to be some kind of shield, crude by Empire standards, but surprisingly effective. The station remained intact. "Impossible," Blue whispered. "They shouldn't have shield technology." Gray leaned forward, his expression grim. "Look at the energy readings. They adapted their primitive magnetic field technology into a basic defense screen. They've been preparing for something like this." The human response was immediate. Commander Smith's voice came through again, but this time it carried steel behind its calm exterior. "You've chosen to answer our peaceful greeting with violence. We hoped for better, but we prepared for worse. This is your only warning. Withdraw your forces or face the consequences." The Council representative laughed. "Empty threats from primitive." Multiple launches were detected from Earth's surface. Not missiles, as the Empire expected, but thousands of small objects barely larger than satellites. "What are they doing?" Blue asked, confused. Gray watched the screens, remembering all the human movies he had studied. "They're not doing what we expected," he said quietly. "They never do." As the small objects approached the Empire fleet, Gray realized that humanity's first lesson was about to begin. And the Empire was about to learn why he had tried so hard to warn them. The thousands of small objects launched from Earth's surface weren't weapons, at least not in any way the Empire understood weapons. They were decoys, drones, and electronic warfare platforms, all built from simple Earth technology, but used in ways the Empire had never imagined. Commander Gray watched as the Empire's superior targeting systems became confused by the swarm of small objects. Each drone broadcasted different signals, creating a chaos of electronic noise that the Empire's computers couldn't process. "Our targeting systems are failing," Officer Blue reported, his voice tight with disbelief. "These primitives are using basic radio waves to confuse our sensors." Gray nodded slowly. "They're using our own assumptions against us. Our systems are too advanced, too dependent on perfect data. They're overwhelming us with noise." The council representative's voice crackled over the command channel, no longer smooth and confident. "Impossible. They're savages. They can't possibly understand our technology well enough to." The representative's words cut off as the first real attack began. Hidden among the swarm of decoys were actual weapons, simple nuclear devices modified with elements of Empire technology the humans had secretly observed and replicated. "Multiple detonations detected," Blue shouted. "They're not trying to hit us directly. They're creating electromagnetic pulses in space." Gray watched as several Empire ships suddenly lost power, their perfect systems overwhelmed by the crude but effective attack. The humans had realized they couldn't match the Empire's technology, so they found a way to turn it off instead. Down on Earth, Commander Smith stood in the command center, watching the battle unfold. "Phase 1 complete," Lieutenant Ross reported. "Enemy ships are responding exactly as the Sci-Fi consultants predicted. Their advanced systems are too sensitive to handle our primitive countermeasures." Smith allowed himself a small smile. When they had first invited science fiction authors and fans to help plan Earth's defense, many had laughed. Now, no one was laughing. Decades of imagining alien invasions had given humanity a unique perspective on how to fight back. Back in space, Gray's ship rocked as a modified Earth satellite slammed into their shields. "They're using their space debris as weapons," he observed. "Clever. We assumed they would try to match our technology. Instead, they're turning their limitations into advantages." The Empire fleet tried to regroup, to adjust their tactics, but they had never faced an enemy who fought like this. Their training assumed that any spacefaring civilization would follow certain rules, use certain strategies. Humans ignored those rules because they had never learned them in the first place. "Sir," Blue's voice was almost a whisper now. "They're broadcasting something on all frequencies. It's their entertainment signals. They're movies about alien invasions." Gray switched his screen to monitor the broadcast. The humans were showing the Empire's forces scenes from their science fiction, scenes that perfectly predicted this very battle. They were letting the Empire know that they had been preparing for this fight for generations. "They're not just fighting us," Gray realized. "They're teaching us a lesson." The Council representative's ship launched a desperate attack on Earth's atmosphere, trying to show some kind of victory. The weapons that could have destroyed whole continents dissipated harmlessly against hastily constructed defenses. Defenses built using concepts from a century of science fiction stories. "All ships," the Council representative's voice shook with rage. "Full attack formation. We will not be humiliated by primitives who barely understand space travel." Gray closed all four of his eyes for a moment. "You still don't understand," he said quietly. "They don't need to understand space travel perfectly. They just need to understand us. And they do, better than we understand ourselves." As the Empire fleet moved to attack, more launches were detected from Earth. But this time, Gray noticed something different about them. These weren't decoys or simple weapons. These were ships, human ships, built in secret, waiting for this moment. The Empire was about to learn another lesson. Humans didn't just prepare for invasion through their stories. They had been building for it too. The human ships emerged from hidden bases across Earth's surface, rising through the atmosphere like dark arrows. They weren't sleek and perfect like Empire vessels. They were bulky, over-engineered, and built to take punishment. Most surprisingly, they were powered by captured Empire technology that no one had realized humans had secretly obtained. Commander Smith stood at the bridge of humanity's first space battleship, the Defender. The ship had been built inside an abandoned mountain, its existence kept secret from most of the world. It wasn't just one ship. It was the first of hundreds. "All ships report ready," Lieutenant Ross announced from her station. "The civilian ships are in position too." That was humanity's other surprise. Alongside their military vessels, they had launched converted cargo ships, fishing boats rebuilt for space, and even modified oil rigs. Every piece of human engineering had been adapted for this fight. In his flagship, Commander Gray watched the human fleet approach with a mixture of horror and admiration. "They've been studying our crashed ships," he said quietly. "Not just studying, improving them. Look at how they've modified our technology." Officer Blue's hands moved across his control panel. "Sir, their ships are using some kind of hybrid power system. They've combined their primitive nuclear technology with elements of our drive systems. It's crude, but it's working." The council representative's voice boomed across the command channel. "This is impossible. No species has ever replicated our technology so quickly. They must be destroyed before." The human attack cut off his words. Unlike the Empire's precise, coordinated strikes, the human assault came from all directions at once. Each ship fought independently, using tactics that made no sense to Empire commanders. "They're not following any standard combat pattern," Blue reported, confusion clear in his voice. "Each ship is making its own decisions." Gray nodded grimly. "Of course they are. They don't have 1,000 years of rigid tactical doctrine holding them back. Every human commander is free to improvise." The battle erupted across Earth's orbit. Empire ships fired their advanced weapons, expecting easy victories. Instead, human vessels took hits that should have destroyed them, their hulls reinforced with layers of simple materials that dispersed the Empire's energy weapons. On the Defender, Commander Smith watched as their plans unfolded. "Launch the boarding teams," he ordered. "Let's show them what humans do best, adapting their technology for our own use." Small, fast ships shot out from the larger human vessels. They were carrying teams of engineers and soldiers, all trained for one purpose: capturing Empire technology. They had practiced these moves countless times, inspired by decades of science fiction stories about space pirates and boarding actions. "Sir," Blue's voice rose in panic. "The humans are. They're boarding our disabled ships. They're taking them." Gray watched as human teams cut their way into Empire vessels, using tools and techniques that no civilized species would have considered. They weren't just fighting to win. They were fighting to learn, to adapt, to grow stronger with each passing moment. "Look at their ship designs," Gray pointed out. "Each one is different. They're experimenting, testing different approaches. Even in the middle of battle, they're innovating." The council representative's ship launched another attack, this time targeting Earth directly. But the humans had prepared for this too. A network of ground-based weapons, reverse-engineered from crashed Empire technology, activated. The attack dissipated harmlessly. "Send the signal to retreat," the council representative ordered, his voice shaking. "We must regroup and return with a larger fleet." But Commander Smith's voice came over all channels, broadcasting a simple message: "We're not done teaching you yet. This is just the beginning." As the Empire fleet tried to withdraw, they discovered one final human surprise. Their retreat paths were blocked by a cloud of repurposed satellites and space debris, turned into a maze of obstacles that their perfect sensors couldn't navigate. The Empire was about to learn that the only thing more dangerous than human creativity was human determination. Commander Gray stood in the wreckage of what had once been an Empire supply ship, now transformed into a human command center. Around him, human engineers worked with captured Empire technology, modifying it in ways that defied conventional thinking. They weren't just copying the technology, they were improving it. Fascinating, isn't it? Commander Smith had invited Gray to observe after his ship surrendered. "We're not really good at following instructions, but we're excellent at figuring out new ways to make things work." Gray watched as a human engineer combined Empire energy systems with simple Earth materials, creating something entirely new. "You're not afraid of making mistakes," he observed. In the Empire, changing proven technology is forbidden. That's why you're losing, Smith said simply. You stopped growing. On the screens around them, the battle continued. More Empire ships had arrived as reinforcements, but they were falling into the same traps as the first wave. Human ships darted between them, using tactics pulled from centuries of naval warfare, aerial combat, and even ancient ground battles. Look at this, Smith pointed to a display showing the captured Empire cruiser. Humans had stripped away its perfect hull and replaced it with layers of simple Earth metals. Your ships are too perfect, too dependent on exact specifications. We made them tougher by making them messier. Gray's 4 eyes blinked in sequence as understanding dawned. You're not trying to match our technology level, he said slowly. You're dragging us down to fight at yours. Smith smiled. Where we have the advantage of experience. We've been fighting at this level for our entire history. A junior officer rushed up with a report. Sir, the Empire's third wave is using new tactics. They're trying to copy our swarm attacks. But they're doing it wrong, Gray said, almost to himself. They're trying to use chaos in an organized way. That's not how chaos works. Around them, the hybrid command center hummed with activity. Humans had taken Empire computer systems and networked them with their primitive but flexible internet. They had combined Empire energy weapons with simple kinetic projectiles. Everything was a mixture of high and low technology, working together in ways Empire engineers would consider impossible. Your people built perfect weapons, Smith explained, watching another Empire ship fall to human tactics. We built weapons that can be repaired with spare parts and duct tape. Guess which ones work better in a real fight? Gray moved to a window, looking out at Earth below. All my years of military training, and I never understood what makes a species truly dangerous. We thought strength came from perfection. Strength comes from adaptation, Smith corrected, from learning to work with what you have, from failing and trying again. Reports kept coming in. Empire ships were losing battles across the solar system. Human vessels, both military and converted civilian craft, were proving impossible to predict. Every time the Empire developed a counter to one tactic, humans would switch to something entirely different. Your people have forgotten more about warfare than we ever knew, Gray admitted, but you remember how to learn, how to change. Smith nodded. That's what makes us dangerous. Not our weapons or our technology, but our refusal to accept limitations. An alarm sounded. The Empire fleet was attempting a new formation, trying to break through Earth's defenses. But humans had already adapted their strategy, turning the Empire's own momentum against them. They still don't understand, Gray said, watching his fellow warriors fall into human traps. They think if they just find the right formula, the perfect strategy, they'll win. And that's why they've already lost, Smith replied. Because the only perfect strategy is being ready to throw away your strategy when it stops working. Gray turned all 4 eyes toward Earth's horizon, where human ships were rising to meet the Empire's attack. He had warned the Council that humans were dangerous. Now he understood that he had underestimated them too. They weren't just dangerous because they could fight. They were dangerous because they could change. And the Empire, perfect and unchanging, never stood a chance. The High Council's emergency meeting chamber was in chaos. Reports from Earth showed the unthinkable. The Empire's greatest fleet was being systematically taken apart by a species that had only just reached their moon. How are they broadcasting this into our secure channels? Council member White demanded, watching as another Empire dreadnought fell to a swarm of converted Earth vessels. Council leader Reed's pale skin had lost its shine. They're not just using our technology. They're reshaping it. Every ship we lose becomes their new weapon. The screens showed scenes that made no sense to Empire military doctrine. Human ships were fighting in 3-dimensional patterns learned from their ocean navies. They had turned their primitive projectile weapons into mass drivers that could punch through Empire shields. Most disturbing of all, they were broadcasting their victories across every Empire communication channel. Commander Gray stood before the council again, but this time as a messenger from the human forces. "You're not just losing a military battle," he told them. "You're losing the hearts of your own people." He activated a hologram showing Empire colonies across the galaxy. Young warriors were watching human broadcasts with fascination. They saw the creativity, the freedom to improvise, the ability to think independently. And they wanted it. "Your rigid control is breaking," Gray continued. "Humans aren't just defeating our ships, they're showing our people a different way to live." On Earth, Commander Smith was overseeing the final phase of their plan. Human ships had surrounded the remaining Empire fleet, but they weren't destroying them. Instead, they were broadcasting images of Earth's culture, art, and music alongside their military victories. "Send the offer," Smith ordered. Lieutenant Ross nodded and transmitted the message to every Empire ship. "You can be more than what you were built to be. You can choose to change." In the council chamber, the reports grew worse. Empire crews were surrendering, not out of fear, but out of curiosity. They wanted to learn how humans thought, how they lived, how they created new things. "This is bigger than a military defeat," Gray explained to the stunned council. "Humans aren't trying to destroy the Empire. They're transforming it, one mind at a time." Council Member Black slammed his fist down. "We cannot allow this chaos to spread. Order must be maintained." "Order?" Gray's 4 eyes fixed on him. "Look at what their chaos has accomplished. In weeks, they've done what we couldn't do in centuries. They've made us question our assumptions." The screens showed more Empire ships powering down their weapons. Young warriors were making contact with human crews, exchanging ideas, learning new ways of thinking. The rigid hierarchy that had held the Empire together for thousands of years was crumbling. "Your choice is simple," Gray told the council. "Adapt or fall. Humans have given us that gift, the understanding that we can change." Council Leader Reed stood slowly. "And if we refuse, if we send our entire fleet, then you'll lose them too," Gray said quietly. "Not to human weapons, but to human ideas. They'll see the freedom to think differently, to question, to create, and they'll never go back to blind obedience." The council chamber fell silent as the truth sank in. The Empire hadn't just lost a battle, they had lost their grip on their own people's minds. The perfect, unchanging civilization they had built was being undone not by force, but by the simple human idea that things could be different. "The humans send one final message," Gray announced, activating another transmission. Commander Smith's voice filled the chamber. "Your Empire doesn't have to end. It just has to change. The choice is yours." The council members looked at each other, seeing their perfect world crumbling around them. They had feared human weapons, human tactics, human technology. But in the end, it was human ideas that had defeated them. The Empire's fall wasn't marked by destruction, but by transformation. And it had started with a simple truth that Commander Gray had tried to warn them about. Humans didn't just win wars. They changed the rules of what was possible. 1 year after the Empire's failed invasion of Earth, the Great Hall of the newly formed Galactic Council looked very different from the old Empire chamber. Gone were the cold metallic walls and floating chairs. Instead, the room combined Empire technology with human design, creating a warm, welcoming space where representatives from both civilizations could meet as equals. Commander Gray stood beside Commander Smith, watching delegates arrive for the first official meeting of the new council. Empire representatives now wore less rigid uniforms, showing their individuality through small modifications. Human delegates brought their diverse cultures and styles, adding color and variety to the formerly monotone Empire aesthetics. "Did you ever imagine it would end like this?" Smith asked, gesturing to where Empire and human engineers were working together, combining their technologies in new ways. "End." Gray's 4 eyes crinkled in what humans had learned was his version of a smile. "This isn't an ending. It's a beginning." Around them, the changes were evident everywhere. Empire ships now carried crews of both species, with humans teaching improvisation and creativity, while Empire officers shared their advanced technical knowledge. Young Empire warriors eagerly learned Earth's history, especially its stories of adaptation and change. The latest reports from the outer colonies are encouraging, Lieutenant Ross said, approaching with a datapad. The hybrid education systems are working better than expected. Empire children are showing unprecedented creativity in their problem-solving. And our people are learning the value of patience and precision. Smith added, turns out we needed each other. A group of Empire scientists walked past, excitedly discussing modifications to their technology with human colleagues. They were learning that perfection wasn't about being unchanging. It was about constantly improving. The council is ready, and Abe announced. Gray and Smith entered the chamber together. The new council was a mix of Empire elders who had embraced change and human leaders who had proven they could bridge the gap between the two civilizations. Former council leader Reed, now just one voice among many, had finally accepted that change didn't mean chaos. Today we celebrate 1 year of partnership, Smith began, addressing the gathered delegates. But more importantly, we celebrate what we've learned from each other. Gray stepped forward. The Empire taught humans the benefits of advanced technology and coordinated action. Humans taught us the power of adaptation and independent thinking. Together, we're stronger than either of us were alone. Screens around the chamber showed the results of their cooperation. New ships combining Empire precision with human creativity. Schools where children of both species learned together. Research centers where different approaches to science and technology merged to solve problems neither civilization could handle alone. We feared humans because they were dangerous, Gray continued. We were right. They were dangerous to our old way of thinking. They showed us that strength isn't about being perfect and unchanging. It's about being willing to grow. Smith nodded. And we learned that progress doesn't have to mean constant chaos. The Empire's wisdom and experience has helped us channel our creativity more effectively. The chamber erupted in applause, another human custom that Empire citizens had enthusiastically adopted. Even the oldest council members had learned to appreciate these displays of emotion. The stars are no longer a battlefield, Gray announced. They're our shared frontier. And together, we'll explore them in ways neither of us could have imagined alone. As the session continued, Gray watched humans and Empire citizens working together, sharing ideas, building something new. He remembered his original warning to the council about how dangerous humans were. He had been right, but not in the way he expected. Humans hadn't been dangerous because they could fight. They had been dangerous because they could inspire change. They hadn't destroyed the Empire. They had helped it evolve into something better. And that was the greatest victory of all.